Welcome back to another episode. The video today is going to be a little bit different than my normal videos because normally I review video games, computer games and video game systems and a lot of reviews normally. But this time I'm going to record one of my projects that I'm currently working on, and the project is I try to remove some of the yellowing that I have on this old Commodore Amiga computer. This is one of my Commodore Amiga 500 computers that I have, and yeah, like I said, I try to remove the yellowing on this computer. And the stuff that I'm gonna use is called Creme Peroxide. And yeah, before we start this video, I wanted to mention a couple of things. I have two links down in the description or slash the video description. The first link is from the homepage of a site called Retrobrite, and the other link will bring you to another channel on YouTube, which is called the iBookGuy. And I have those two links down in the video description because I didn't came up with the idea of this procedure or anything. I didn't invent anything to use this procedure or anything. So if you want to give credit for this procedure or this miracle cure or whatever, then give credit to the iBookGuy, because I basically recreate the same project that he did in his video, in this video right now, by using this stuff, because he used a different solution, which is called Salon Care Professional Cream 12% for the volume. And since I could not get this stuff, because you can buy it on Amazon.com, but they don't ship it into my country, to Austria, and they also don't ship it to Germany, I had to find something very similar, and this is the best thing that I could find, which is this Creme Peroxide. So if you want to give credit, this is one person that I would like you to give credit, if anyone, to the guy from the iBookGuy channel. And the main credit, if anything, if you want to give credit, then give it to the guys of the website Retrobrite. They also didn't invent this procedure, because the original inventors were people from a museum in Wuppertal, Germany, who tried an experiment with hydrogen peroxide in combination with UV light on old yellow plastic, and after some days they found out that the yellowing was removed and the plastic looked like day one actually. And the people who created the website Retrobrite, they heard of this experiment, and one of those guys, or I guess even two of those guys who own the website Retrobrite, are actually chemists. And they more or less heard of this idea slash this experiment, and they improved the formula to make it more user-friendly, and so that it's not, so this procedure is not that expensive for normal persons, and you also don't have to be a real chemist to use this Retrobrite, which they created in the end, so that, like I said, you don't have to be a chemist to make Retrobrite and to use it for your video game systems or old computers or whatever. And also on the website Retrobrite, you have so many informations about making this Retrobrite, about what causes the plastic to become yellow, or what starts the yellowing inside of the plastics. And they also give you tips and tricks, and if you have some problems with, or problems that can occur if you don't mix this Retrobrite the right way and everything. So it's a very cool site, a lot of information. And yeah, like I mentioned before, if you want to give credit for this video, let's call it like that, then don't give it to me, because I didn't invent this procedure or anything. Give it to the guys of RetroBrite or the iBookGuy, which, yeah, basically, because I saw his video of his project, I really wanted to recreate his project and try to restore one of my old Commodore Amiga 500 computers. But anyways, I'm gonna tell you more about the RetroBrite, what's happening and everything, yeah, later on in this video. So let's go! So here are my two Amiga 500 computers, and yeah, here you can see all this yellowing, especially on the keys of those computers. It really looks ugly / a little bit disgusting, and yeah, just a little comparison between both computers. The right one actually looks a lot worse than the left one, and I'm gonna treat this one with this Creme Peroxide, but I'm gonna take this upper case and do the treatment also on this one, because I'm gonna swap the top of the Amiga 500 from this one to this one, and mainly because this one has, I don't know if you can see this, some scratches, and yeah, I actually want to have one that yeah, is cosmetically afterwards in a very good / almost perfect condition or anything. So next what I'm gonna do is, of course, I'm gonna take apart one of those machines, this one right here, but I'm also going to switch the top parts from this computer to this one and the other way around. So I'm actually going to do the treatment on this case from this Amiga 500 and yeah, do the rest of the computer of this one. Also, this is the one which has the 1 megabyte RAMs in it. This one doesn't have the RAM expansion or anything, so this one only has the 512 kilobytes of RAM, and this one, yeah, actually the expansion is also 512, so you can reach 1 megabytes of RAM. But this is actually my main yeah, Commodore Amiga 500, which I also use for gaming and everything. And this is more or less, yeah, kind of a spare part unit, because it's not 100% working. It works about 80 to 85%. Some of the keys actually don't work anymore. I don't know really why, but I found that out recently. And also the disk drive in this machine is not in the best condition. Sometimes it reads a disk and a lot of times it doesn't read the disks. And yeah, I've actually opened also this one and this Amiga 500 a lot of times. I opened those systems already and cleaned everything inside, also the disk drives and everything, and reseated the the microchips inside, so that everything should work alright. But in the end, yeah, this one doesn't work 100%, but this one does. And yeah, next I'm gonna take apart the computer and then I'm gonna start with the treatment on this Commodore Amiga. Now the first step was of course disassembling the Commodore Amiga, like I mentioned before, and I've also swapped out the top parts of the casing from one Commodore Amiga to the other one. After disassembling the computer, I've cleaned everything with some warm water, some dishwashing detergent, a sponge and an old toothbrush. And afterwards, after everything was clean and dried off, I've laid down some tin foil / aluminium foil on one of my working tables in my workshop. I've seen this in many other videos that people also laid down first some tin foil, basically to reflect the UV light. I don't know if it actually works, but in the end it doesn't harm to lay down the aluminium foil. Then I've covered it with some plastic wrap, and then I've applied the Creme Peroxide onto the casings, or better say the top part of the casing of the Commodore Amiga, and I've used a brush, and as you can see in this video I used also some safety gloves. Always use safety gloves if you make one of those projects, because Creme Peroxide also has some hydrogen peroxide mixed into it, and hydrogen peroxide is not healthy at all, and you should avoid getting this stuff on your skin or eyes or anything. So always use at least safety gloves, maybe even also wear some safety glasses. But yeah, after I've finished with applying the Creme Peroxide onto the whole casing, I've covered everything with plastic wrap, basically to stop the Creme Peroxide from evaporating. And yeah, then I only turned on the UV light and let it sit for a couple of hours. For the keys of the keyboard I used some Ziploc wraps, and I've splitted all the keys up into 2 of those Ziploc wraps, and I've also poured in a little bit of the Creme Peroxide and sealed them up, and yeah, mixed them together in the Ziploc wrap. And afterwards I laid them on the table and made sure that all the keys are facing up and that every one of those keys has a little bit of space between each other key, so that they don't stick together or anything. This is also the same method that the iBookGuy used, and I think it's a lot easier to use it in that kind of way instead of laying down or laying out every single key and applying Creme Peroxide to every single key. Yeah, and basically I also placed the keys also under the UV light with the bottom part of the casing, and again, after applying the Creme Peroxide to the bottom part of the casing, I also covered it with some plastic wrap, turned on the UV light and let it sit for a couple of hours. And when I was finished with the project or with the treatment, then I've washed / cleaned again all the casings and all the keys with warm water and some dishwashing detergent. And after everything was clean and dry again, I started to reassemble the Commodore Amiga. And now I'm gonna reveal the final results of this project, and da-da-da-da! Yeah, the Creme Peroxide does the trick, as it looks like. Now I'm very pleased with the final results that I have so far. I mean, it's not perfect, I'm gonna be honest, especially if you look at the keys, they still have some yellowing, and if I want, I actually can redo the treatment again and try to get a better result, but actually for right now I'm really pleased with the results. And also the casing, it looks very good. It's also not perfect, there are still some spots left which have some yellowing, for instance here on the back, because I guess the UV light didn't get to every spot of the casing of the Commodore Amiga, but in the end, compared with the other Commodore Amiga that I have, it really looks very good. The keys spanned about 48 hours under the UV light, then the bottom part of the casing spent about 24 hours under the UV light, and I've actually treated the top part or the top cover of the Commodore Amiga, I've treated it twice. So the first time it spent 16 hours under the UV light, then I've cleaned it and I've looked at the progress, and actually it almost looked like right now, but since on the back there was still some yellowing, I've treated it again, and then the top part of the Commodore Amiga spent another 24 hours under the UV light, so it spent a complete time of 40 hours under the UV light. Okay, now since this project was pretty successful, I thought I'd also tried the Creme Peroxide on one of my Pong consoles, a Philips Odyssey 2001, which also has some yellowing, but in the end I actually don't know how bad the yellowing actually is on this Pong console, because I don't know the original color of the Odyssey 2001. But anyways, I'm also gonna treat the Odyssey 2001 with the Creme Peroxide, but first I'm gonna disassemble just the controls of it, clean those, and do the treatment on those. They will gonna sit for about 24 hours under the UV light, and then I'm gonna reassemble the controls, and then I'm gonna look at the progress, and if there is a visible progress, then also gonna disassemble the rest of this Pong console and clean it, of course, and then do also the treatment on the rest of the Pong console, and this will also spend about 24 hours under the UV light. And of course I'm gonna show you my progress and also the final result on the Philips Odyssey 2001 Pong console. So it looks like the project was a success. At least I'm actually pleased with the final results. I mean, okay, the keys on the Commodore Amiga still have some yellowing, and I could treat those keys again if I wanted to get a better result. Maybe I'll do this someday in the future, but for right now I'm actually very pleased with the results. The casing looks pretty good, and also the casing on the Pong console looks pretty good. So yeah, basically I'm very pleased with the results. But before we come to an end of this video, there's still a lot of information left that I wanted to share with you. Number one, what causes this the yellowing on those plastics? According to the RetroBrite homepage and also to some other people which I read online in some forums and on some other sites, the main reason is because of an accessory agent called bromine, which was mixed into the plastic in the 80s and 90s. And bromine is a flame retardant, and the more bromine was included into this plastic mixture, the more flame resistant the plastic gets. And bromine in its liquid form has a very dark brown color, and normally it is not really visible because they don't add that much of the, or they didn't add that much of this bromine into the plastic. But in combination with UV light, over time, the longer a plastic is exposed to UV light, the more the bromine gets visible on the plastic. So basically you can say it bleeds through the plastic, and that's also the reason why you can see some old systems, monitors, whatever, which only have some slightly yellowing on them, and some are almost completely brown. That's basically, depending on how much those plastics were exposed to the UV light. Another thing that I want to talk about is hydrogen peroxide, because you are going to work with hydrogen peroxide in any method that you wanted to use it, like the method that I used with this Creme Peroxide or the retrobrite method, or you can also use the method like the people from the museum in Wuppertal, where they only used hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is not healthy at all, and you can get it at different concentrations from, I guess, 3% to 15% you can get as a normal consumer. You can get higher concentrations up to 30 or maybe even to 40% in pharmacies, but as a normal consumer you don't get any higher concentrations, because I guess you have to be a chemist to use those things, and in the end you don't have to use them, especially for one of those projects, because I've read somewhere online that hydrogen peroxide in a concentration of 70% or even higher is actually used as a rocket fuel, or you can use it as a rocket fuel. But anyways, in the end, if you're going to also make one of those projects, you only need hydrogen peroxide between 3 to a maximum of 15%. And when you work with hydrogen peroxide, always wear some gloves, and maybe also some safety glasses, because you don't want to get this stuff on your skin, in your eyes, mouth, noses, or ears or anything. Because you can get some rashes, or if you get the stuff in your eyes, you can actually go blind. So please be careful if you work with hydrogen peroxide. Like I mentioned before, for one of those projects where you try to de-yellow plastics or anything, you only need hydrogen peroxide in a concentration between 3 to a maximum of 15%. Because I've read some projects and some comments online, I've also seen some results where people used a higher concentration up to 30%, because they thought with 12%, 9, 3 or 6% you get these results. How well might this stuff work with a concentration of 30%? They thought they get some better results, and it would work a lot faster or anything. But in a best case scenario, if you really use some hydrogen peroxide up to 30% or anything, in the best case scenario you get the same results like with 3 to up to 15% of hydrogen peroxide. In many cases it actually has a very bad effect, because it can happen that it might work better / stronger on the plastic, but you end up with some discoloring on the whole plastic. So maybe some of the edges get a lot lighter than on the rest of the plastic, or you get some lighter spots on the plastic on the rest of the surface, but you can't remove those discolorings anymore. So in the end it can basically it can happen that this eats itself into the plastic. So like I said before, for one of those projects, please only use between 3 to up to 12, maximum of 15% of hydrogen peroxide. And this is also mentioned on the retrobrite homepage. Now, since I've already talked about the retrobrite, if you want to use the retrobrite method, you can find the recipe on the homepage of retrobrite, and basically you need 4 components. The first one is of course the hydrogen peroxide in a concentration between 3 to 15%. The second thing that you need is xanthan gum. The third one is glycerin, and the fourth and final stuff that you need is Oxy Laundry Booster. And basically the reason why you have to mix up this stuff is because the method that they used in the museum in Wuppertal was they only used hydrogen peroxide. They filled up, I guess, a tank or maybe an aquarium or anything with hydrogen peroxide, and they immersed a plastic into this aquarium / into the hydrogen peroxide, and then they treated it with UV light. Now this is also one of the methods that you can do. I have also seen some very good results of people who basically used an old aquarium, filled it up with hydrogen peroxide 3% and immersed some bigger plastics into it and let it sit out in the sun so that the hydrogen peroxide can react with the UV light on the plastic. And yeah, the results were actually pretty good. But the reason why you have to mix all this stuff to create retrobrite is because the hydrogen peroxide is a fluid like water, and if you would only apply it onto the surface of plastic, it would run off and it would very quickly vaporize. And the hydrogen peroxide has to be in a fluid state in order to work with the UV light on the plastic. If it vaporizes, it doesn't do anything on the plastic. So this is the reason why you have to add the xanthan gum in order to make it more creamy slash a gel, so that the fluid stays on the plastic. Then the glycerin, you have to add the glycerin because it slows down the vaporizing process. And I also read somewhere that it actually helps the hydrogen peroxide get deeper into the plastic to remove the yellowing. And the Oxy laundry booster is basically a catalyst, so it speeds up the process. So in the end, yeah, it doesn't take you as long to de-yellow those old plastics. And the reason why I didn't choose retrobrite in the end was, I mean, I've heard about retrobrite in 2009, I guess, and I've seen it, I've seen some results, and I was actually interested in trying out this retrobrite, but I was working on some other projects, so I thought, yeah, I'm gonna do this later on in the future. And yeah, normally it can happen that sometimes I forget something, so I really forgot about the retrobrite stuff, and later on I came across it again, and then I thought, oh, okay, now I'm gonna try it. But with retrobrite, I've seen a lot of results of people who used retrobrite, and some results were really amazing. I mean, the plastic afterwards looked yeah, astonishing great compared to how it looked before. But other people had some issues while working with the retrobrite. But in the end, you can't really say if it is the fault of retrobrite or the people who mixed the retrobrite, because it can happen that they used a little bit too much of hydrogen peroxide or glycerin or the Oxy laundry booster or the xanthan gum, or they used let's say the wrong UV light, because in my project that I made right here, I used a UV lamp, this one right here, and you don't have to use a UV lamp. You can also use just regular sunlight and place your plastics outside in the garden or whatever. So yeah, like I said, I've seen a lot of results. Some of them were actually pretty amazing, and some of them didn't look that great at all. So yeah, on one hand I was like, hey, yeah, let's try it. On the other hand, I was like, no, I'm gonna wait a little bit longer, maybe I do it another day. And then I've seen the video of the iBookGuy, and he showed that basically you don't need to mix the retrobrite. You can buy a similar project which also has already the hydrogen peroxide in it, and it works actually the same. Yeah, about this Creme Peroxide, this one has 12% for the volume, it is called, and it has 12% of hydrogen peroxide mixed into it, and it is it already is a cream slash a gel, so it's basically completely mixed. I mean, I don't think it has some glycerin in it or xanthan gum or anything, but it's it's a very similar stuff to this Retro Bright. And if you want, you can add some Oxy laundry booster to it. Maybe it speeds up the process a little bit, but as far as I know, the advancement is not that great / that much. Now, I've bought the Creme Peroxide, like I also mentioned before, on eBay from a seller in the UK. I don't put a link down below because, I mean, if people watch this video in 3, 6 months, 12 months, or maybe even 2 years or anything, I don't know if the seller is still around, but at the current state while I record this video, the last time I checked online, you can easily find the seller, and he still has, I guess, 200 or maybe even 300 bottles left ready to sell. So at least right now there's no shortage of this Creme Peroxide, and for viewers in America, you can easily buy this Salon Care Professional Cream 12% 40 volume, and there are also some other products out there. Sorry, there are still some other products out there which basically are the same stuff but only from a different company, and maybe you can even get those things cheaper, because I've paid for this one with shipping 15 euros, which is about $21 / 13 pounds. Yeah, you can also get the Creme Peroxide also in other concentrations. You can get it with 9% 30 volume, with 6% 20 volume, and I guess also with 3% 10 volume. And who knows, maybe those agents work as well as this one with 12% 40 volume. And the UV tube that I used, I bought this in an electronics store. It has a size of 60 centimeters, which is about 24 inches. The light itself has a power consumption of 70 watt, and the tube has, the tube uses 18 watts. And yeah, basically I paid for this one 25 euros, which is for about $35 / 21 pounds. And like I mentioned before, you don't have to use a UV light. You can also use the sunlight, but the reason why I've chosen the UV light solution is at the time that I make this project, I mean, we still have winter, and when I started this project, yeah, it was almost every day it was cloudy, so there was not that much of sunlight. And also with the UV light you have the advancement. Number one, you can place the parts that you want to de-yellow perfectly under the UV light. The light doesn't change or anything. Then you can also leave it overnight, and if you use just the sunlight, then you might have to reposition the parts, because I mean the earth is spinning, so the sunlight is moving, and also at nights you have to bring all the stuff back in, and then next day you have to bring it out. So yeah, okay. Other solutions beside the one that I used, beside the Retro Bright solution or the solution with just hydrogen peroxide, yeah. One other solution is that basically you don't care at all. As long as the system is clean and as long as the system works, you're fine with it. You don't care about the yellowing at all. This is also a solution that you only live with it. It's also okay. And the last solution that I could think of is basically repaint those systems. But in the end, yeah, even if I would repaint, let's say for instance this Commodore Amiga, I mean, I could do it easily with the casing, but in the end the keys would still be, yeah, they would still have a lot of yellowing, so it still would look pretty ugly, even though the casing would look pretty cool. But yeah, repainting those keys would be actually a lot of work, and especially because you lose all the letters on the keys, and to re-letter every key and give it the same look as original is yeah, very big work slash a very hard work. And if I would replace it with a different style of letters, it wouldn't look original anymore. And also if you would for instance repaint or paint over an NES or a Super Nintendo or anything, you also have the Nintendo logo slash the lettering on him on those systems. So yeah, you would also have to re-letter those systems, or at least I would have to, because I would wanted to have the original look of the system, and I would only consider repainting any of my old systems or anything if they would be in a really bad shape. So if they would have such a massive yellowing that you can't even de-yellow any of those systems, or they are pretty beat up, they have a lot of scratches or anything, then I might consider painting over those systems. But in the end, I wanna have those systems in the best and original look that yeah, that is possible in the end. Okay, but now we're at the end of this video. Sorry that it is such a long video, but in the end, like always, I try to get or give you as many informations that I can in my videos. If you wanna give credit for this procedure or anything, please don't give me the credit, give it to the iBookGuy or the guys from RetroBrite, or maybe the guys from the museum in Wuppertal, Germany. I don't have the webpage from them, so I don't have a link down in my video description, sorry, but yeah, maybe you can Google it or whatever. Okay, but I really hope this video was informative for you. I hope you enjoyed the show. Maybe see you next time. Take care. Bye.